You are if you stand in there.
You are. He was barbecued.
That's when I started to believe secondhand smoke is a real thing.
It's fucking totally
I didn't think
real.
it was until then.
People that don't think it's real, it's crazy. Remember, we used to mock Tate because Tate didn't want to get high. We would just smoke pot, and Tate would have to stick his head out the window like an ostrich.
I feel like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
He was worried he didn't want to get hotboxed. That's when we used to get vans. Remember, we used to get vans for a while?
Yeah, conversion vans.
Yeah, we would rent vans because there were so many of us.
Oh, yeah, you
Eddie
would
would
come with
come
a
and Tate would come.
entourage.
Yeah, we would entourage it. And Red Van would film it. We would just have shenanigans in every town we went to.
You bring you, of course, and then Eddie, Tate, and Red Band as the non-comedians, and then me and Duncan or me and Diaz or whatever.
There was a shitload of us.
Yeah, so 5, 6 people.
And then we would feast. We'd go to these fucking amazing restaurants.
Fogo a lot.
Oh, we went to a lot of Fogos.
That brings me back to one of my memories. I believe it was Cincinnati. Was nearby, right near the hotel.
It was Cincinnati.
Okay, Churrascaria.
Yeah, right across the street.
Yeah, and as we're leaving, fucking newly Botoxed, what's his name? Wanderlei came in. We're like, dude, that's fucking Wanderlei.
Yeah.
And he was the most fierce pre-game fighter. The way he'd look at you like, I want to kill you for taking this fight.
Yeah.
Nobody was scarier than him in his prime.
Yeah.
Crow Cop was scary because he would just be so calm. Like, I don't care. Let's do this.
Well, Crow Cop stared him down more than anybody ever stared Wanderlei down.
He wouldn't break.
Well, Crow Cop was a straight-up killer.
Like, yeah, he was like, I've murdered
head
people
of the
in cold
Croatian,
blood.
Croatian anti-terrorist squad.
They've begged for mercy, and I've showed them none.
And he was a world-class kickboxer. Like, he wasn't afraid of Wanderlei's striking, and he was a heavyweight. And Wanderlei really wasn't a heavyweight.
Yeah. But anyway, we saw him checking in, and we went to eat. He was in that churrascaria 15 minutes late. Like, he threw his shit down and came in. He was like so excited about it.
That's it. Like, look at Crow Cop.
Wow.
Yeah. Dude. Nobody stared down Crow Cop back then. That was when Crow Cop was at the peak.
Look at this Japanese guy going through his routine. He's like, fuck.
And I'm pretty sure this was before Crow Cop really had sort of mastered MMA. He was coming over as a straight kickboxer, and they had different rules for him. The rules for Crow Cop were like you can only fight on the ground for like 30 seconds. They had
really?
And if the fight went to a distance, it would be a draw.
Damn.
Yeah, because he really didn't have a lot of experience with takedown defense or any MMA fighting back then. And Wanderlei didn't get Botox. He had his face reconstructed because his nose, he had been in so many brawls, his nose had completely flattened where he couldn't breathe out of it, and he had so much scar tissue over his eyes that his eyes were drooping down, so he'd get cut instantly. Any punch that would hit him would open him up like a gash. And his nose was completely flat. So they took a chunk of his rib and rebuilt his nose. And he had his nose built big so he could breathe out of it more. And then he had all the scar tissue removed from his eyebrows and then pulled back. And according to Dana, I don't know, but Dana's like, he got it done in Brazil on the cheap. And it just like they didn't really make him look like Wanderlei.
Wow.
So he went from Wanderlei Silva. It's like Wanderlei Silva has the most profound facial form change in all of MMA. Because he went from if you go back,
he's like Sammy Sosa.
Wanderlei Silva versus Dan Henderson 1 when they first fought in Pride. He was actually pretty good looking guy. Like regular, good-looking guy. And then by the time he left Pride, his face was just smashed in. By the time he fought Chuck Liddell, his face was just smashed in. His nose had been literally flattened.
Wow.
From punches and kicks, and not just from fights, but also from training. The training that he did at Shoot to Box in Curitiba was legendary.
Yeah, his face was fucked up.
Fucked up.
That also, would bring me to another thing. We got to go to Brazil one time. Yeah. We didn't do a show that time, but
see, that's him versus Dan Henderson.
Yeah, pretty normal looking.
Can make that a little bigger, so you can see. Yeah, super normal looking, just a normal looking badass. That was the first fight where he fought Dan Henderson.
Dan Henderson's chin looks like it's drawn on.
Yeah, he's got an
like somebody fucked up. Had a fucking tick when he's drawing
extra bone.
Yeah. Jay Leno and him should chin off.
See that picture of Wanderlei above that with the eye all fucked up? That was him from that fight.
Oh, really?
Dan Henderson connected with a haymaker of a right hand and fucked up his eye.
I love how this guy's smiling that. Like, look at this badge. Look at this cool picture I'm about to take.
But you mean, look at Wanderlei's face there in comparison to his face later on in his career. Totally different. Dan Henderson looks exactly the same. Mm-hmm. He looks like the same guy. He's just an older version. He might be one of the toughest guys that's ever lived.
So tough.
Yeah, Dan is just a fucking... Now look at that picture up there with the tattoos on the shoulders. Go to that one. Now that's him after facial reconstruction. Make that larger. See, that's after the facial reconstruction is settled in. You know.
Oh, we saw him right then.
And he just fought real recent, like a couple weeks ago.
No way, he's still fighting?
Got knocked out by Rampage. Rampage flatlined him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rampage is still fighting too.
Yep. Rampage still carries that power. That was when he KO'd Rampage KO'd him in the UFC with a vicious left hook.
Knocking him through the ring in Pride was one of the coolest.
Yeah.
I saw that later. I mean, way later. You come to the UFC and it's like all these highlights, this backlog of highlights of MMA. Like, wow.
Especially after the UFC purchased Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rio was really cool.
Yeah.
That's a place to go. And actually, that fight, in terms of the audience response, the two biggest ones were Sylvia Couture in Columbus, first time they'd ever been in Columbus, and that Rio fight.
Jose Aldo versus, that was Chad Mendez, right?
Which one?
The one in Brazil, wasn't it?
It was a spinning back kick.
Oh, that was Terry Edom versus Edson Barboza.
Dude, from fight one of the undercard, the place was so you could feel it shaking.
Yeah.
And I remember them chanting something in the crowd because Dana did smart. It's one of the first foreign ones, and he made a Brazilian fighter on every fight.
Yeah.
He fucked up a little by having a couple times Brazilian versus Brazilian. But at every fight, and they were chanting something in the audience.
Die.
Yeah, you were like, you go to the translator, like, hey, what are they saying? Like, you're gonna die. And he's like, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah, they didn't play games, man.
Oh my god, that's when they were like legit, and I believed it. Like, we got to figure out how we're gonna get Chael Sonnen out of here. Fights Anderson here, and I'm like, come on. And then you go there, and you're like, oh, I believe it now.
Yeah. Well, they're fiercely nationalistic.